Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the League One Transfer Roundup. If you do want to enjoy today's video, please make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well. If you are new, can we try and hit 120 likes on today's video? And don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. What do you believe has been the best piece of business completed over the last 7 days, and how would you assess your club's transfer business so far? Also, apologies for this video not coming out yesterday. Obviously, the plan is to have these out every Monday, but I was far too ill to get that video out yesterday. Even today, it's going to be a bit of a struggle, but I don't believe there's been that much transfer business that's gone on. Let's find out. AFC Wimbledon are yet to do any further transfer business, whether incomings or outgoings. In terms of Barnsley, they brought in a 20-year-old attacking midfielder, CAYLAN VICKERS. He's come in on a loan transfer from Brighton's under-21s, and I think that'll prove to be a smart signing for the Reds. Obviously, he spent the second half of last season on loan with fellow League One side at Mansfield Town. He did well there, but at times did certainly lack the goal contributions, but in terms of technical ability, is clearly a very talented player. But you now look at the options that Barnsley have got in the likes of Davies Keeler-Dunn, David McGoldrick, CAYLAN VICKERS. All them three players, their best position is just behind the striker, isn't it? So how are Barnsley going to go about fitting all of them in? Obviously, Barnsley have now got 3 of their 5 loan spots also filled up as well. I know you can have more than 5, but you can only have 5 in a matchday squad. But I do believe that'll prove to be a smart signing for the Reds. And in terms of departures, Barnsley did see one. Corey O'Keeffe has joined a fellow League One side on loan, and they also saw Max Watters, a 26-year-old striker. He has joined Dundee United on loan for the remainder of the campaign. Obviously, wasn't really going to play much at Barnsley this season, hasn't really pulled up many trees since his Crawley days back in like COVID sort of time, so I do think that one is one that does make sense. In terms of Blackpool FC, they did bring in a couple of loan additions this week. Firstly, 28-year-old goalkeeper Bailey Peacock-Farrell has joined on loan from Birmingham City. Didn't really play that much football for the Blues last campaign, and when he did was clearly his performances warranted him being second choice at Birmingham last campaign, but there is clearly a very good goalkeeper in Peacock-Farrell, and at just 28, there's still loads more room for him to grow and develop. And they also brought in a 21-year-old right-back, Danny Imre. He's come in on loan from Crystal Palace. I was convinced that guy was a winger. Is he a wing-back? I'm not 100% sure, but obviously spent last season on loan with Bromley, did very well there, so now him making a step up into League One does make sense. I must admit, I have been very impressed by Blackpool's transfer business so far. They have had a few pretty significant departures this transfer window, one being in the last week in the way of Rob Apter, 22-year-old right winger. He has joined at Charlton Athletic for around £2 million. Obviously, great transfer fee to get in there. I've watched him personally a couple of times from his days at Tranmere Rovers, and he's a very, very talented player, now making a step up into the Championship. Not sure how he's going to get on in Charlton's very defensive style of play. They don't play with wingers. Is he going to play as a wing-back? Maybe as a striker. Not sure as the move from Charlton, but for Blackpool to get £2 million in, it's obviously a great transfer fee. You'd hope that there is a few add-ons included in there as well. In terms of Bolton Wanderers, they haven't done any further transfer business in terms of incomings, but they did see a departure in the way of 24-year-old midfielder George Thomason. He's made the step up into the Championship with Wrexham for around £1.3 million. So good transfer fee to get in there for Bolton, and obviously Thomason had some really good moments in a Bolton shirt, but has also had some pretty low ones as well. So I do think now a time to where Bolton can kind of refresh this squad a bit that hasn't quite been able to get them over the line and back into the Championship over the last couple of years, and obviously he'll go in and provide another option and another bow to the Arsenal of Wrexham, a string to the bow, not another bow to the Arsenal, another string to the bow of Wrexham in terms of just strength in depth and sheer quality that is in their side. In terms of my team, Bradford City, we haven't brought anybody else in through the door. We've not done for a fair few weeks now. We've also not seen any further departures, but we know that we are close to bringing in 2 players on loan from Premier League clubs. Burton Albion are yet to bring anybody else in through the door, and I don't believe we've seen any further departures as well. I'm not 100% sure if Billy Bowden was still contracted to Burton, but either way, he's made a step down into League 2 to join Swindon Town at 33 years of age. I do think that just does make sense really for all parties. In terms of Cardiff City, they're still yet to bring anybody else in through the door. They've brought nobody in as of the 22nd of July, and obviously we haven't seen any further departures either. In terms of Doncaster Rovers, I believe we have already covered all of their transfer business. They've not done any deals for a little while, and they obviously haven't seen any further departures either. In terms of Exeter City, they've brought in Sil Swinkles, a 21-year-old centre-back on loan from Aston Villa's under-21s. Can't say I know anything about him. He might have played against Bradford City back in January in the EFL Trophy, but obviously we do know now that Exeter have taken up 4 of their 5 loan spots, and there's some decent options in there. You know, I do like the loan additions of Ryan Rydell, of Joe Whitworth, and hopefully from an Exeter point of view, Swinkles can have a successful loan campaign. In terms of departures, I don't think we've seen anything else out of Exeter, so we'll move on then to Huddersfield Town, who did today confirm the signing of 32-year-old striker Alfie May. He's come in for around £1.2-1.3 million from Birmingham City. Obviously did quite well in limited minutes last campaign with Birmingham. Has always scored goals wherever he's been in League One, whether it be with Cheltenham, Charlton, Birmingham. Will probably go on and do the same with Huddersfield, who, like I keep mentioning, as a Bradford City fan, it really does pay me to say, but they're definitely going to go on and win the league title. If they don't, it would be one of the biggest failures ever. They've spent a lot of money over the last couple of transfer windows, and when you're in a position to do so, who can really blame them? So I do think that is a very good signing for them. And I think we mentioned Lyndon Gooch in the last episode. It might have been one that was very close, but that was officially confirmed the other day. He's come in on a free transfer from Stoke City. Again, a wealth of championship experience in there in Huddersfield. I don't think they've made a bad signing in this transfer window so far, which, yeah, it's really sad to see as a Bradford City fan, because they're going to be very good and we're probably not going to beat them next season. Huddersfield Town haven't seen any further departures. In terms of Leyton Orient, they have brought in a former Huddersfield man in the way of Josh Karoma. The 26-year-old winger has joined on a free transfer, I believe has signed a 3-year contract. He was 99% done to Barnsley. He'd done all these media photos apparently and all that sort of stuff, and he's done a U-turn at the last second to sign for Leyton Orient. It goes to show how limited the finances are that Barnsley do have if you're getting outspent by Leyton Orient, who don't really spend much money on transfer fees and don't really have the biggest wage bill either. But I think it's a great signing for Orient. They needed some more depth in the winger positions, obviously the likes of Danage moving on, and I think Karoma at 26 will be a great signing. I think he'll absolutely thrive under Richie Wellens, and obviously is a club that he has previously been at, and I don't believe there has been any further incomings from Leyton Orient. In terms of departures, we've not seen anything further from that point of view, so we'll move on to Lincoln City, who are yet to bring anybody else in through the door. Just the 2 signings for them so far, both in the centre-back position. And in terms of departures out of Lincoln, we've not seen anything further from that point of view. In terms of Luton Town, they've brought in a 22-year-old goalkeeper Josh Keeley. He's come in on an undisclosed fee from Tottenham Hotspur. Obviously spent last season, I believe, on loan with Leyton Orient. I think scored in a dramatic FA Cup game. But in terms of Keeley as a goalkeeper, I think that's a smart signing for Luton. Wouldn't say he's as good now as what Thomas Kaminski is, but he's obviously about 9, maybe 11 years younger, something like that. So I do think that'll prove to be a very smart addition. And they also brought in Gideon Kudu, a 20-year-old striker on loan from West Ham's under-21s. Can't really say I know too much about him, but will obviously provide some competition at the top end of the pitch for the likes of Naki Wells. 15 years age difference between them 2 strikers. In terms of departures out of Luton, we haven't seen anything further from that point of view. So we'll move on then to Mansfield Town, who did confirm a couple of additions. Firstly, 25-year-old right winger Luke Bolton has come in on an undisclosed fee from Wrexham. I think again that is a very smart signing. Although Mansfield don't traditionally play as wingers, he might potentially play as a wing back, but I do think that'll prove to be a smart sign. If they want to go flexible and go to a 4-3-3, I think he is a very talented man to have down that right hand side. They also brought in 20-year-old striker Joe Gardner. He's come in on loan from Nottingham Forest under-21s. Obviously spent last season, I think the second half of last season, on loan with Lincoln City, where it didn't really work out for him. But this one at Mansfield, they needed a couple of strikers going into this season, so I do think that'll prove to be a decent squad rotation option to have. And they also brought in Jamie McDonnell, a 21-year-old defensive midfielder, again on loan from Nottingham Forest under-21s. That's 3 players they brought in on loan from the Forest Academy this summer. McDonnell was obviously excellent with Colchester United in League 2 at last campaign. I would have loved him at Bradford City to compete with Max Power, but I think Mansfield have recruited absolutely excellently in this transfer window. They've gone a lot younger with their business this summer. Just one player in his 30s, and that's Liam Roberts at 30. And obviously goalkeepers can play on for a lot longer. So some real statement signings in there for Mansfield. I think they're going to be a real contender to push for the top half next campaign. They've massively reduced the average age of that squad, and I do think they are going to be in for another very successful season. They also haven't seen any further departures. In terms of Northampton Town, there's a lot for me to quickly skim through here. They have done a lot of business. They brought in a 28-year-old centre-back, Jordan Thornley. He's come in on loan from Oxford United, obviously plenty of League One and a little bit of Championship experience in there as well. Northampton, they've signed a lot of players, not that much in the way of quality. I think only 3 or 4 are decent signings. The rest are gambles, I would certainly say, but I think Thornley will certainly provide a bit of experience to that back line, and I don't believe that Northampton have seen any further departures. In terms of Peterborough United, they've brought in a 21-year-old centre-back, David Akagbu. He's come in on an undisclosed fee from Walsall. Not sure about this signing, in all honesty. Yeah, there might be a bit of potential there in Akagbu, but he was really poor in the second half of last season for the Saddlers. He was obviously a part of one of the worst bottles you ever see in football in history, and Peterborough have spent, I think, big money on him. I think they've given him practically a 5-year contract with 4 years and an option of a further season. So great move for Akagbu. I'm sure he's going to be loving the new wage packet and all that sort of stuff, and obviously he's out of the bit of a toxic hellhole in Walsall at this moment in time, but I'm not convinced there's the signing from a Peterborough point of view. Some of their business so far, not entirely sure it screams a team that are going to be anywhere near even outside the bottom 4 for me. I think Peterborough are going to be going down this season just by some of their recruitment and the players that they've lost. Just my personal opinion. They also haven't seen any further transfer departures. In terms of Plymouth Argyle, they've certainly spent some money in this summer transfer window so far, but they haven't brought anybody else in through the door since we last did speak, and I don't believe there has been any further departures. I'm pretty sure we have already covered all of their business. In terms of Port Vale, they haven't really done that much transfer business so far, and the business that they have done, I've not massively been impressed by Vale. I think they had a very, very good League 2 squad. They need to bring some more starters in there, and for the large part, I think they have brought in a lot of backups, which is a little bit concerning in my opinion. They obviously haven't done any business for quite a while, whether incomings or outgoings. In terms of Reading, they've brought in Daniel Kayariwa. Apologies if I have definitely pronounced that one wrong. A 23-year-old attacking midfielder. He's come in on a free transfer from Priya Munster. I know absolutely nothing about him, not even the slightest incline, so I cannot comment on him one little bit, and I don't believe they've brought anybody else in through the door. I'm pretty sure we already mentioned Jack Stevens. I'm not entirely convinced though. In terms of departures out of Reading, we've not seen anything further from that point of view, so we'll move on then to Rotherham United, who have finally done a little bit of transfer business. Firstly, they brought in 25-year-old central midfielder Josh Benson. He's come in on a free transfer from Barnsley on a 1-year deal with an option of a further season. Obviously, he's impressed quite a lot in his recent trial with the Millers, and I think he'll provide some decent competition for the likes of Joe Powell in them central midfield positions. And he also brought in Lenny Agbe, a 20-year-old centre-back who's come in from Celtic's B team for an undisclosed fee. Don't really know too much about him, but obviously he's not going to be up to the standard of somebody like an Akima Doffin, who they have recently lost in this transfer window. But Rotherham, again, they're another team I could certainly see struggling this season, and maybe even in that bottom 4. In terms of departures out of Rotherham, I don't believe anything further has happened from that point of view. Stevenage FC haven't done any transfer business this week, whether incomings or outgoings. Not too much business in that Stevenage squad in the entirety of the transfer window so far. In terms of Stockport County, they've brought in R2 Hoskonen, a 28-year-old centre-back from Cracovia. He's come in on a free transfer. Don't really know too much about him, but obviously over the last couple of years, Stockport have signed a few of these Icelandic players, and at 28 years of age will come in and provide a wealth of experience. And also the surprising signing from Stockport was that in the way of 27-year-old right-back Corey O'Keefe. He's coming on loan from fellow League One side Barnsley. Not sure about this signing whatsoever. He's pretty poor at Barnsley, in all honesty, and I would certainly say that's a downgrade on somebody like a Kyle Noyle, but you would trust Stockport County. They've obviously recruited very well for a number of seasons, and I do believe that will probably turn out to be a good signing from Stockport, but just on paper as of right now, it does certainly seem like a very baffling one. If he was going to be like Barnes' third choice right back, why would Stockport bring him in when Stockport surely got ambitions to finish in the top 2, and Barnsley I believe will be in and around mid-table in my personal opinion. I don't believe we've seen any further business done from a transfer out outs point of view from Stockport County, Wigan Athletic, they haven't brought anybody else in through the door, and they also haven't seen any further departures either. In terms of Wycombe Wanderers, they've brought in Jamie Mullins, a 20-year-old attacking midfielder from Brighton's under-21s. He's come in for around £100,000. Again, don't really know too much about him, but obviously he is their youngest signing in this transfer window so far. They also brought in Ewan Henderson, a 25-year-old Scottish attacking midfielder from Beerschot VA over in Belgium. He's come in for an undisclosed fee. Again, not really so sure about him, but Wycombe obviously spent a lot of money in this transfer window, must be pushing £2 million surely in transfer fees. They've certainly spent a lot of money looking to kick on from the pretty poor second half of last season under Mike Dodd, and obviously my team Bradford City kick off with Wycombe on the opening day of the season. And have Wycombe had any further transfer departures? I don't believe so. So there we go then, we'll leave it there for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well. If you are new, 120 likes, as I mentioned at the start of today's video, will be massively appreciated. And don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. What do you believe has been the best piece of business completed over the last 7 days? For me, I'm probably going to give it to ALFIE May. That is an unbelievable signing for Huddersfield. Even at 32, he's probably going to hit 20 goals with his eyes closed next campaign. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day though, and I'll see you very soon for another one.